Thank you very much, Ellie, and great to see you all this morning. As Ellie mentioned, I am the policy director at the Digital Chamber, and I focus on national security policy. And we have a really interesting, special opportunity today to discuss the T3 FCU, the Financial Crime Unit that TRM Labs, Tron, and Tether have come together to form in an effort to clamp down and root out illicit finance activity on the Tron network using the Tether stablecoin. So we have a great group of panelists here to speak to us today. Justin Sun, the founder of Tron, we have with us. We have Paolo Ardoino from Tether, the CEO of Tether. Here on stage, Ari, my colleague, that we've been in these situations together before, global head of policy at TRM Labs, and David Feeder from Tron Labs in Fenwick and West, a partner at Fenwick and West. So thank you guys for being here. I would like to kick it off and maybe hear a little bit of the background of how this idea came together among the three parties that formed the T3 FCU. And Justin, maybe you may be the best person to tell us about that, how this idea came together and how it formed and how the partnership has even developed over the last 6-8 months that it's been in process.
Yes, definitely. So about a year ago, I met with Paolo in Dubai about a blockchain conference, and we talk about how we can comply with the global crypto standards and make crypto a very useful tools and agency for the law enforcement, especially in United States, to tackle the illicit blockchain activity. So that's why we have come up with this T3 idea. So basically, I think for Tron, we are the infrastructure support. It's a low-cost blockchain infrastructure. Tether is a blockchain and a stablecoin provider, which widely used among the globe. And also, of course, we have TRM Labs, which is one of the leading blockchain data analysis company in the world. So we believe if we can bring these three together, we can really help law enforcement globally to tackle and fight illicit activity. And of course, later we get involved with Fenwick, which is also a very important legal partner to help us to identify illicit transaction. And also, of course, with everybody's efforts, I think after a year or so, we already successfully freeze lots of funds, illicit funds, and return them to the victim and collaborate with numerous law enforcement agencies around the world, especially in United States, to help crypto, I think, happen in US and further, I think, increased the US presence globally, because as we all know, Tether, USDT is today like one of the most important vehicles. Actually, US dollars can reach people in a global way, and we want to make sure we do it in a right way, compliant way, and also be a very useful tool, way better than cash and current financial legal system. Current financial system to tackle illicit activities, because we have all the data, we have all the track record, and we will help global law enforcement to find out like who is the bad actors in the crypto space.
Thank you. Justin, a little aside, how many ideas in the crypto world it started with a meeting in Dubai. A couple of folks got together in Dubai and discussed an idea. But thank you for that. And I'd be interested maybe to hear from the whole group, and perhaps Ari, you're maybe best suited to discuss this. Can you walk through maybe a case or the process of how you're alerted to illicit activity if it's coming in from a law enforcement agency, or you're detecting it, and maybe walk through how that works?
Sure, absolutely. And I thought Justin did a really good job of sort of spelling out the players here and sort of the different work that each of us do. But at TRM, we have sort of full-time team dedicated to rooting out illicit activity, specifically in Tether on the Tron blockchain as part of T3. And that team works very closely with law enforcement globally across the world. Just recently, there was a case involving Europol and Spanish Garda where that team, again, working very closely with T3, seized back about 27 million in digital assets associated with a network of money launderers and criminals. So it's not just in the U.S., it's all over the world, working with the FBI and others in the U.S. So there's a lot going on, and each piece plays a really critical role, right? I'll let sort of Paolo speak to the Tether piece, but Tether plays this critical role of being able to take action within its ecosystem. We're doing the investigating, and Tron, as Justin so eloquently said, is the infrastructure here. They're a blockchain, and really helping navigate the sort of the ins and outs of that work.
And what, in kind of looking broadly speaking, Paolo, maybe you can discuss it, if there have been internal changes at Tether and how you've adapted to this partnership and the relationship, like what kind of processes internally that you might be able to discuss in developing this partnership and working together.
Yeah, sure. So I really appreciate how Justin described the initiative that we started collaborating on since almost 1 year. You know, sometimes a couple of people meet at a bar, they discuss about the industry, and they realize that there is some much more that we can do together. And then we brought in as well TRM. To me, the safety of the ecosystem of Tether is very important. Tron has been a cornerstone of as infrastructure provider for USDT since 2018. For such a long time, Tron has been adopted by all the emerging markets, developing countries, as a very efficient and transaction cheap way to transfer digital dollars. And so the collaboration across our companies is fundamental, because I think both ourselves and Tron both want the safety of our ecosystem, want to make sure that every person, any new user that enters in our ecosystem, use it in the safest way possible and in a way that is very trusted over a long period of time. And we can only do that if we work to find the abusers, find the criminals, and take away this illicit activity from our infrastructure, from the usage of our stablecoin. And something that I say both to law enforcement and also to the decision makers, to lawmakers, and the administration of different countries that we collaborate with, blockchain is the worst tool to be used by criminals, because you can track every single transaction. We proved it every single day. We work with TRM Labs, we work with Tron, and we prove every single day that we are able to identify the bad actors, and we are able to freeze the funds, and we are able to reissue the funds that maybe were stolen. There is a case, for example, with the Bybit hack, is a very interesting and important case of our collaboration. We are the living proof. This T3 collaboration initiative is the living proof that when companies come together and they work towards the same goal, we can achieve greater results for the entire benefit of our entire industry.
Just real quick, and before I let David jump in here, let me just put some really hard numbers on this, because I think this has been really sort of well said. We're talking about 150 million frozen and seized by T3 working with law enforcement over just the last 7 months in this existence. 8 million of that has been in the recent Bybit hack as well. We're talking across, multiple jurisdictions and really every threat category. So over 150 million in 7 months is pretty extraordinary for the beginning of really an early stage venture like this.
Yeah, and then look,
Absolutely.
what makes this technology so amazing is the ability to, transfer assets, like that, right? And so what we're trying to do by putting this together is give law enforcement the ability to get a streamlined approach to actually have freeze opportunities. I was a federal prosecutor. I led a cybercrime unit. And when assets would disappear into crypto, we would be stuck, right? Because there was no global network that was there to interdict those funds and give us an opportunity to try to seize them on behalf of victims. What we're doing here is really streamlining the process. So when law enforcement comes to T3, we have a direct pipeline to Tether. We understand what Tether's tolerances are, and we can get the information to them in a way that corroborates what the law enforcement has found, and in a way that Tether can action. And that just gives us an opportunity, and as Ari just said, $150 million interdicted thus far. I mean, that's incredible.
And I think...
If I can just add
please.
Yeah, just a single piece of information here. When with this group, we can act in a much faster way than traditional finance. So imagine a wire that is generating from the US and travel 2-3 jurisdictions abroad. How difficult would be for law enforcement to trace all that? Imagine doing international requests through courts, international courts, just to have a bit of information. With blockchain technology, actually everything is there. You cannot tamper with the history of transactions on blockchain. It will remain written in a blockchain forever, for the next 2,000 years. So it's always possible to track the information and law enforcement to act very swiftly and effectively. In fact, I think that our average time to impose a freeze when we corroborate the information coming from our partners and law enforcement is like 20 minutes up to 1 hour. So I think we are very fast, very effective, and that's how you actually dissuade bad actors to use the ecosystem. One thing that very simple way, almost Italian way to say it is like, using blockchain technology and stable coins to do criminal activity, you mean you are a very, very stupid criminal, right? And that's something that I'm very comfortable to say.
Well, that's a great point, and I'm curious, Paolo, you know better than anybody here how much the stablecoin market has grown, certainly in recent weeks as well. Tether, you tweeted recently, is the 7th largest purchaser of U.S. treasuries in 2024, and I think the total market cap for stablecoins is just at $220 billion, or give or take. So the stablecoin industry is has material importance to the global economy and certainly to the U.S. economy. And I wonder what your you've touched on this a little bit already, but what your general philosophy is for Tether and stablecoin issuers in general, from how they approach illicit activity and a proactive nature versus a reactive nature. Can you comment on that and what your philosophy is or has been with Tether?
Absolutely. So I think that for all law enforcement and lawmakers is much more positive if everyone would use stable coins rather than cash. In the sense that stablecoin issuers, privately issuers of stablecoins like Tether, would provide still a good, let's say, privacy quote unquote layer for access digital dollars that is very transparent. So there is this dichotomy between access to money that people are comfortable to use, but at the same time is money that can be traced online, can be traced through blockchain technology, can be traced by companies like TRM Labs. So everyone wins. The worst tool that enables and enabled throughout the history of humanity illicit activity and still is the king of illicit activity is cash money. So if you put everything on blockchain, everyone will win. And so I think that this sector will grow to $1 trillion and more in the next few years, probably a couple of years. We have heard from Secretary Bessent the importance also of stablecoins as the US dollar hegemony driver. And US dollar hegemony can only grow and should only grow if there is a way to understand how these US dollars are being used. We have seen how in the past pallets of cash were distributed across the world. That's how illicit activity happens. You want to stop that. You want to stop sending pallets of cash across the world. You want something that gives the comfort to the people, to the end users, that they can use it in a safe way, and comfort to law enforcement to be able to verify if there is a good usage of that money or not.
I think that brings up another great point, that the ease and utility that stablecoins can move across the world instantly, in essence, has obviously two sides of the coin. It's very effective, very useful, but it could also mean that funds are spirited away forever. And so I would love to hear your, Ari and David, your take on some of the partnerships that interactions you've had with local law enforcement from other nations, and that fact, and maybe the worst and / best example of that is the Bybit hack that occurred about a month or so ago, the largest hack in history, $1.5 billion in essence. Some of it has been recovered, as you mentioned, a lot of it hasn't, but what kind of interaction? Yeah, always. But what kind of interaction, can you describe like relationship with some international law enforcement?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off and feel free to jump in. Look, I think Paolo makes really the most important points. I was also a federal prosecutor for many years, and investigated cases involving networks of shell companies and hawalas and high-value art and bulk cash smuggling. Right, there was no TRM to track and trace those things. Here, we have visibility on every transaction. It's immutable. It's forever. It's sort of the ultimate crime scene on the blockchain. But blockchains also enable illicit actors and all of us to move larger amounts of funds faster than ever before, and that's the paradox. And that's where sort of T3 and then other sort of partnerships globally become really, really important, because crypto enables this in a way that we've never been able to do it in the financial system before, right? The cross-border nature of it. We can continue to partner, we can continue to work closely with foreign partners in a way that before took a mutual legal assistance request or something that would take weeks or months. Today, we can send a quick email or even work within a tool together, FBI and Australian authorities, Singapore police, Thai authorities can all work together in a tool like TRM to track and trace funds. And that's why the global nature of crypto obviously makes it easier to move funds faster, but also makes it easier to track. And we're seeing global law enforcement work closely together in ways we never had before. This Bybit example is just that on steroids. It's everyone, to include people on Twitter, with access to open source tools, tracking and tracing funds, trying to recover. So it's this really extraordinary example that's happening right now, but it really, really speaks to the native qualities of public blockchains that allow us to do this kind of work.
And the uptake has been remarkable, right? I think the level of collaboration we've seen across the industry, both private sector and public, has been remarkable. I mean, we've received requests from law enforcement, Ari ticked off a few, but also Brazil. The democratization of what it allows law enforcement to do is also really important here, because think of the people who have been victims of a pig butchering scam, right? Who may have lost what to them is a significant amount of money, but in the scheme of what law enforcement can successfully investigate and then prosecute is just not going to move the needle. But if you can aggregate, right, and determine who is behind this, and work with local law enforcement authorities. So we're dealing often with, state and local law enforcement, not just the FBI and federal law enforcement partners, which means there's even more scrutiny of criminal activity that we're able to then help sort of professionalize the tracing that's been done at various law enforcement through TRM's amazing technology and just the tremendous workforce that they have there, and really make a difference. And so, like when Justin came to us at Fenwick and said, "This is what we're going to do, and this is what we want to build out," it was like, "This is amazing! I can't believe we're actually going to do this." And in 7 months, I mean, you can see what the progress that we've made, and it's really, I think, an example of how this is like a partnership model for the future. This is a paradigm. Like we can do this, we can replicate this in different ways and really make a difference. So.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. And Justin, I'm curious, I know you announced maybe a week ago that Tron would be partnering to bridge across to the Solana blockchain. I wonder if you have any lessons learned from this partnership, and if this partnership could be extended into other chains, or what lessons learned that you have seen that could inform illicit activity and people trying to tamp down on illicit activity across other chains.
Yeah, sure, totally. So we definitely, happy to collaborate with other blockchain founders to join like our ventures. Recently, we collaborate with Solana, Pump.fun, launching Tron tokens on Solana, which I think in the future we will see more usage of blockchain on Ethereum and Solana as well. And T3, even though right now all the members is with capital T. But anyone right with E like S, they can also join, as well. So.
And Ari, I have a question. The 2025 crypto crime report that you all recently released, I think the number was 58% of illicit activity took place on the Tron network. It was basically cut in half. You saw over the time that the report was covered. What would you say would describe some of that large proportion, and then how you saw it tamped down?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think so. Our recent 2025 crypto crime report showed a 50% reduction in crime on the Tron blockchain, on illicit activity on Tron, by far the largest drop on any chain. I think there's probably a number of different factors that are reasons for that. I think law enforcement globally has gotten a lot better using tools, tracking and tracing. I think exchanges, VASPs, globally, virtual asset service providers, have gotten much better at compliance. But I also think, look, when T3 in 6 or 7 months is able to freeze and seize $150 million, it's really saying, hey, look, maybe you want to move off of the use of Tether on Tron and move elsewhere, because you're seeing a huge focus on rooting out illicit activity specifically on this blockchain in this asset. And I think that is a message that's being sent to sort of criminal actors globally. So I think that there's probably a number of different factors, but I definitely think T3 played a huge role in that significant reduction.
And maybe this is a question for Paolo or for Justin. What kind of activity do you see most often, illicit activity on chain or Tether being used for? Is there some that's particularly stands out?
Well, from my point of view, right, there is also some interesting misconception, in fact, that I would like to clarify. Right, when we talk about pig butchering or Roman scams, what is happening, right? So I saw some media and newspapers talking about how USDT or stablecoins in general are being used for pig butchering. But the reality of things is this, that who performs this pig butchering scam does not have immediate access to the stablecoins. What is happening is that they are contacting a person, the victim, and they will push the victim to send a wire or use the credit card to purchase and to send them some money. And usually that money ends up in a payment processor, then ends up in an exchange, then could end up on USD, for example. So there are 3 layers in traditional finance where the victim, the stolen funds could be stopped and the victim being reimbursed. And when it comes to USDT, thanks to the collaboration also that we have with our partners, then we can stop it, and we are stopping it. So actually, it's not that USDT or stablecoins or crypto is being used by big butchers per se. Is actually the most efficient layer for stopping this activity, and is the layer that makes it possible to stop this activity. So while the rest of traditional finance is failing in multiple steps, we with USDT can trace using TRM Labs, working with Tron, and then work to refund and reissue back to the victims. That is the story that we have to say, because it's the real story.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and unfortunately, where we have to end it, I wish we had about 30 more minutes to dig into a lot of these issues more, but I think, like you said, Paolo, a holistic solution to this issue of illicit finance, especially from the pig butchering perspective, is required from start to finish, and stables and blockchain only take a small piece of that, or take a significant, but a piece of that solution. So thank you guys very much for speaking with us today and enjoying us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.